I would like to introduce our guest speaker. And when I selected this photo, it went upside down accidentally, but then I thought it was appropriate. So I left it like that. But we're very fortunate today to have David Dene calling in from Almería, Spain. Is that correct, David?
Yes, that is correct. I'm in southeastern Spain.
Yeah, and he's originally from the UK, but he's been living in Spain since 1990 and actually co-developed several eco-villages there, and he's living in an eco-village now. And he spent significant time in Ecuador working with the Shuar tribal leaders, and actually went with those tribal leaders to the UN in Geneva and brought a case to the Ecuadorian Constitutional Court citing the rights of nature for the Mirador mine project, which we read about. He's also the president of Ecocide El Rio, which is working to confront the ecocide that's happening in southern Spain, where David lives. And he's been named a world expert on Earth jurisprudence and is part of the team with the Harmony with Nature initiative that's working to facilitate 17 sustainable goals set for 2030. So a lot of exciting projects, and David's going to talk to us today about two of the projects he's been working on. So the floor is yours, David. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a screen share? Here we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. Cool. Let's do a screen share here. Alrighty. Okay, we're on. What I want to do is to go through this case which I presented to the International Tribunal for the Rights of Nature alongside COP23 in Bonn in 2017. This case, we first started working with this case in 2014. And prior to that, I've been working with Rights of Nature Europe. So I was in touch with the Ecocide group and with Polly Higgins. And in 2014, I was able to go to Stroud, meet Polly Higgins, and we presented this case on World Cafe. Time went on, we got to 2017. I've made quite a lot of noise about things. So I was given the privilege to present this to the International Tribunal for the Rights of Nature. So without further ado, as they say, let's move into this. Now, let's see if I can bring this up. Okay. So here, this is who I am. Cool. Where we are, we're surrounded by Nature 2000 protected sites. And I myself, I'm living in the Parque Natural Castanhesa de Sorbas. And this is my little village here. And so we have a drone movie coming up through the village, through the main street. We're all completely off grid. There's no mains electricity, no mains water. And here's a little picture showing the aquatic life. We have these wonderful turtles which are in danger of extinction. They of course rely on the river. So here we have an aerial view showing this oasis and then the dry land around the oasis. Here's my house. We're going to zoom into me having a cup of coffee. Here I am sitting on my windowsill. And then here I am, and I'm just going through documents here. You can see where I live. There I am, Ecuador. Okay, next. Oh, excuse me. So we look and see actually where we are. So here we are right down here on this little southeast corner of Spain, okay? The situation is fairly grim. You can see here the 060008 is the aquifer which supplies our river with water. We can see in 2009 to 2015, we have what's known mal estado, which is the amount of quantity of water we have. So that's in bad condition. And also we have what's going on in terms of chemical nitrates pollution, also bad state. And we see looking forward to 2015 to 21, we have the same situation. And what we can see here, it's not only our aquifer, it's most of the aquifers in Almería undergoing this problem. Here we can see this is our aquifer here, this one up in here. And you see all these red ones, these are aquifers which are overexploited. With this tribunal, we were looking at the inherent rights of Mother Earth, rights of nature. And so, of course, water being the prime source of life, well, we have and nature has a right to water as a source of life. And that water has the right to be free from contamination, pollution, toxic or radioactive waste. Here's the situation we have facing us, okay? So Sorbas is our little town here. And then Los Molinos del Río de Aguas is the spring which serves our river. When we have underexploited conditions, in other words, where we're working in a sustainable exploitation, then the water comes through down into the aquifer. Here we have the water table or the piezometric level, and it comes down to our spring here, Los Molinos del Río de Aguas, which is known as the testimonial spring or the witness spring for the condition of the aquifer. What we're seeing now are these boreholes coming down here to take the water out to the degree that the flow, the flow of water, you see, I'm just going to see if I go back, see if I can be clever. You see the flow there coming in like so, and you see the flow here. With these boreholes, we get cones of dryness, which means that the water starts flowing backwards, this way and this way. So our flow to the spring of El Río de Aguas is reduced. It unfortunately kind of gets worse because underneath the first aquifer, we have a deeper aquifer, which is now exploited. And this aquifer is radioactive. It has uranium, radon, tritium, and also we know that these boreholes are not lined. So this radioactivity is beginning to come up into the other aquifer. So in 2010, we found the drinking water in 3 municipalities was contaminated. And by 2017, we have these other villages and towns with radioactivity in their water. And right now we have 13 purification plants. And this is a very bad situation. And I have been unable to get information from the Junta de Andalucía or anybody about the level of radioactivity. The answers I get are, well, you know, it's all within the law. So I'm kind of stuck there, but this is one of the situations we face here. Here we have, in 2015, we have 4,671 hectares of irrigated olive trees taking water from the aquifer. And then we have a total of 5,500 hectares. And the large plant of this is the biggest problem, which is super intensive olives planted at 1,800 trees per hectare. So with this, we have a massive exploitation of reserves. Let me see if I can get rid of this. I've got a thing in the corner here I want to get rid of. Maybe I can't. Okay, well, you see the area here. And this is a dry zone. This is a semi-arid zone. So to be planting super intensive olives with an extraction of about 10 liters per olive per day, so taking about 60,000 tons of water out of the aquifer every day, is of course extremely dangerous to our survival. Okay, here we have these zones which are protected zones for species, which relate to the Nature 2000 zones. So these are protected under directives from the European Union. Okay, so the self-explanatory. We're seeing an overexploitation of this aquifer, our aquifer, since 1998. Reading through the memoranda from the government of Andalusia, we see that they observed this first in 1998. There was a meeting between the European Union and the Junta de Andalucía in 2010, and they agreed to reduce the overexploitation from what had come up to 330% in 2010, from 100% in 1998. The agreement was by 2015 to reduce this overexploitation to just over 100%. Now we're in 2019 and we're running about 400%. Here again, I bring up the picture of the aquifer here, 060008. The table shows the subsystem, which is the aquifer, and we're running at this. I'm going to see if I can get rid of this one here. Ah, okay, that's better. At 421%, all right. Here again, we have, I'm having a bit of trouble with this, excuse me. Let me see if I can move that up there. Are you seeing this on your screen as well, what I'm moving about?
Yes, we can see really well.
Okay, it's better if I can pop it up there.
Yeah, not when he's moving.
We don't see you moving the video window about, but we can see your slides fine.
Okay, that's cool. Alrighty, very good, very good. All right, so we see the actual overexploitation here. And we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 aquifers in Almería province, with ours have been the most overexploited, 400%, 300%, 200%, 200%, 100%, etc. So to the tribunal, I wanted to bring information about what it was before this overexploitation. And it was fair to say that it was a land flowing with milk and honey, because we had sustainable water supplies, subsistence agriculture, springs flowing. We had farmers, subsistence farmers with honeybees, goats, pigs, chickens, rabbits, irrigated land, flowing with milk and honey. This is the source of the Río de Aguas. These tunnels you see here were dug by the Romans like 2,000 years ago. And in behind these exits, there's a tunnel running down the back wall here. It's about 100 meters long, and up, you can see the arrow up in there, another 35 meters, we have a spring. Up until this time, around about 2015, these tunnels were taking water in from the outside spring or nacimiento. The outside spring is now dry, and we are relying on water from the Roman diggings of 2,000 years ago. You can see here, it's dry, okay? Here we're looking at the drop in water, and you can see it is substantial. This is also a biodiversity hotspot. We've got unique ecosystems. We've got 17 protected habitats, endemic, rare species, and these species are threatened, and right now they are dying as a result of this overexploitation of water supplies. This is a view outside the oasis. You can see this is very definitely a semi-arid zone. Here we are inside the oasis. Now that is quite staggering. We are the last oasis in Western Europe. Spanish national TV made a 30-minute documentary, and the title of the documentary was The Last Oasis. They were brilliant. I was able to explain things well, and they also went down to the Junta Andalusia. You know, it was a good reportage. Before the overexploitation, of course, villages were created and existed because there was water. If there's no water, there's going to be no habitation. And so we had, in the 50s, 40s, 30s, 60s, 70s, there was enough water for humans and animals, no problem. In 2017, what's happening now is that the water has run out to the extent that we have drinking water supplied by trucks. In Sorbas now, it's twice weekly truck delivery, because the groundwater, the water which is available from a number of boreholes, is actually not suitable for drinking. People say, well, it gives them tummy ache, and so we're like a third world country, relying on water, buying from the shops, or being supplied by tanker to all the villages and the towns around the area. This is a view of Sorbas. This is our little town. Okay, and I've got a picture here. We're going to show the water truck coming into Sorbas. Here we go, zooming in. Here's the main street. And here's the water truck coming in. Okay, coming along up, past the church. Agua de Sierra Almería. That's down in the south of Almería, on the east of Almería. This lady here, looking for the water, and she said, well, we can't drink the water from the town. It gives me tummy ache. And this is how it looks. This is a reality. Next slide, let's move along this way then. Dying villages. So in 2007, the water field in the village of Gotcha, this is about 5 or 6 kilometers north of Sorbas, is now almost deserted. We had over 100 inhabitants there, say 30, 40 years ago. Now we have 14. The water system, the irrigation system, is completely dry. As it is an ecocide, moved down the Rio Aguas, we find other villages were also deprived of water. So we have High Moras 8 years ago, Mayadomo 6 years ago, and now Zoca. These are little villages and hamlets which are running above Sorbas. Then we have a picture here of Gotcha. This is the town which has been reduced to around about 4 inhabitants now. So here is Manolo. He's one of those 4 inhabitants. I'm here with the president of Group Ecologist Mediterraneo, and we're making this film actually for Arte TV. It's a German TV company. I've got a sign here. My internet connection is unstable. If you have problems, let me know. That's a vine completely dried out. Here we have an orange tree, perhaps is what it used to be, dead. And here you see, coming up here, this is a water depositor. You can see how big it was. All this land here was devoted to agriculture. And now you can see we're finished. Okay, let's go on the next slide. Oops. I took this picture. It's of a Neolithic, there are Neolithic cave paintings behind this fence. In a way, it shows the kind of attitude that the Junta de Andalusia have to nature and points which are basically of historical value. These are cave paintings inside. They're not very big, but they are cave paintings, okay? So we can see from this that there's been water flowing in this valley since Neolithic times. So any threats, and we have this 400% overexploitation threat to the river, well, of course, they threaten both protected ecosystems and we humans. We're reliant on the corridors of biodiversity and the life-giving water supplied by the flowing water of El Rio. Just a little picture here of the little video of the turtles living in the water. Without water, of course, they're not going to be able to survive here. They're kind of quite a little family group. We're going to see a few more coming along in here in a minute or two, I think. I'm really living in quite a little paradise here. There they come. Here we go. Yeah. So that's a little shot of the flora, well, of the fauna rather. Okay. There we go. Next. There we go. All right. So Mc Gill of the Community Environment Legal Defense Fund, she put together a draft ordinance for us for Sorbas. Natural communities, ecosystems within Sorbas, but not limited to. Rivers, streams, aquifers possess the right to exist, flourish, regenerate, and naturally evolve. Beautiful words. All residents, natural communities, ecosystems, and Sorbas possess a fundamental and inalienable right to the sustainable access, use, consumption, and preservation of water drawn from natural water cycles that provide water necessary to sustain life. The right to water includes, but is not limited to, the right to be free from corporate water withdrawals. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we cannot bring that to pass, so to speak, within the legal frameworks of Spain. But the point is there, and the point is valid. Here we have a video showing what these super intensive olives look like. Here we have the irrigation lines running. Each tree is about 1 meter apart, and each tree takes about 10 liters of water per day. And we are driving along, you can see these lines and lines of trees. Here you see huge deposito, and you see the massive amount of olive trees. Remembering that we're in a semi-arid zone. This is obviously unsustainable madness purely for money. Really abuse. I think that would be the right word. Okay. We can look and see, well, what benefit is this? It's no benefit to anybody. For instance, previously here we have the situation. One man with harvesting equipment can harvest 30 tons of olives in a day. Now, previously it was 120 people who could support their families who would handpick these olives. And these olives were also given grant money by the European Union. We have a friend in the European Environmental network up there in Brussels, and Nick Maynen is his name. Nick asked me if I could get details of these concessions. I spoke to the president of GEM, Almería University, Ecologists in Action. Their reply was, yeah, I think so. Clammed up totally. What we have here is a situation of rich people with a lot of power in the community being able to close down areas of communication and information. Our main man is a man called Juan Carrion, and his family and his connections run through 250 businesses in the area, including building, transport. He has the Volvo truck franchise. He brought in friends from Madrid, politicos, etc., who bought up the land cheaply. And we assume put a little money in the pockets of those who take a little money in the pockets, and most do in Almería, a little bit like Mexico, and achieved legal permissions to grow these super intensive olives. Okay, so 2014, 2015, 2016, more exploitation, and now in 2017 and in 2019, of course, we have nearly 6 million olive trees, 6,000 tons a day. This is, of course, a disaster. Looking at Article 2, the inherent rights of Mother Earth, the right to regenerate its biocapacity, to continue its vital cycles, free from human disruptions. Well, families are displaced owing to lack of water, which I've explained a little before, and the land can no longer regenerate its biocapacity because industrial olives have produced a monoculture which covers nearly 6,000 hectares. The right not to have genetic structure modified or disrupted. Well, both of those points are not observed here, because the trees are cloned, genetically modified. You have a kind of hedge formation. They're now in full production, and we probably have another 2 years full production if the situation goes on. Then there really will be no water in the aquifer, and I guess we're going to see the producers of these olives saying goodbye, leaving us with nothing, and we have been, shall we say, ecocided. Okay, loss of livelihood. The state of the Río de Aguas is in deterioration. This year in 2019, we see fragmentation of the river even within this oasis. So the corridors of biodiversity have actually been broken. In terms of problems for humans, we see Jackie Smart, who is feeding around about 60 families with clean organic vegetables. She faces displacement and loss of livelihood. And then we have Jose Lorente, caring for goats all his life. And he is faced by financial ruin, displacement, and of course, loss of livelihood. Just a little map here showing us Los Molinos here. This is where we are. And then we follow the river on down, Los Canales. This is an autopista, a motorway here. And then we go into Los Canales, and we go on down through Los Porales. And this is keeping this Nature 2000. This is the corridor of biodiversity. Now, this is Jose Lorente and his goats.
Bueno, este río es de ahora, porque hace un año. Bueno, pero el río lleva ya cientos y cientos y cientos de años. Entonces, tú no puedes quitar eso ahora. Eso no va a quitarlo de ahora, no va a matar a la gente de ahora. Por la gente, las plantas, la explotación, por todo, porque la ves. Porque no puedes vivir aquí. ¿Qué haces aquí ya? ¿De dónde tomas aquí? Igual, allí no Molina, igual, ¿cierto? Igual, es lo mismo, es cierto. Igual, todo de niño. Todo es lo mismo. Que ahí hay muchos pozos, muchos porque hay mucho olivo y entonces necesitan mucha agua.
Si necesitan, yo creo.
Mucho olivo y el olivo necesita millones de olivos. Si hay una gota no pasa nada. Pero hay que millones y durante 8 horas o yo qué sé, cuántas horas tendrán ese puesto, si hay un olivo, ellos van a vivir, pero nosotros no. Los olivos sí van a vivir, pero nosotros no. Nosotros vamos a morir. Porque, ¿de dónde? ¿De dónde vamos?
Hombre, yo no sé los altos, pero aquí...
A que nos vamos a quedar de comer los olivos, nos vamos allí, estamos dando ustedes de comer ahora. Si no hay agua, por las plantas.
Si no hay corazón, no hay café, no hay comida, no hay nada.
Les desaparece.
Sí.
Los animales, si no hay agua, yo no muero los animales. Porque ¿dónde van a haber agua?
Sí.
¿De dónde? Pues si eso es normal, tú no tienes que vender los animales porque no pueden beber. No hay agua.
Ni nada.
No, que es la muerte nuestra, que no, que hay que desaparecer. Claro, a ellos se les ahí está. La galería.
La realidad es el mismo problema,
El mismo problema. La huelga, el mismo problema.
Y la huelga
Y
también.
claro, que con esta agua también,
Sí.
el mismo problema. Todas las barreras de aquí, los molinos, las canales, los perales, la herrería, la huelga.
Es casi nada.
No, es que tienen que regar con la agua esta. Si no hay agua de esta, no se riega. No, ni aquí, ni abajo en la herrería, ni la huelga.
¿Qué cantidad de tiempo tú piensas tenemos? ¿Un año más?
No mucho más, ¿no? No mucho más. No mucho más.
Es el micro.
No, un año o dos con mucho, no mucho más, porque se seca. Si le cortan el agua a donde nace, la cortan, pues se seca.
Seca, entonces no hay vida por nosotros.
No, nosotros morimos. Nosotros de seguro vamos a morir.
Ya.
Seguro. Eso está seguro.
Okay. I think Jose Lorente puts it very clearly that we really are in an ecocide. Article 2, inherent rights of Mother Earth, the right to life and to exist. Well, that is very clearly threatened. The right to be respected. Well, we're obviously not respected. We're being treated as indigenous people in the Amazon. The right to regenerate its biocapacity. Without water, well, of course, we can't do that. You know, there's no chance. Vital cycles and processes free from human disruptions. Well, we have totally human disruptions. The right to maintain identity and integrity as a distinct, self-regulated and interrelated being. With 6,000 hectares of monoculture, there's very little interrelationships happening because the land is stripped bare, sprayed. Life is being destroyed as life is in monocultures. The right to water as a source of life, the right to integral health, all these rights are being abused. Excuse me a minute, I'm just going to close the door. The doggies. Okay, back again. This is an interesting point. The national government, this is from Madrid. There is no coordination or agreement between the Directorate General for Water, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Food and Environment, and the Provincial Council or the Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning of the Regional Government of Andalusia to adopt emergency solutions. In their response, they leave any actions for the horizon 2022 to 2027. Well, you can see from this, we have no action from the Madrid government, and they are not going to move in on the Junta de Andalucía, our local government. We look for alternative sources. So there's a desalination plant in Carboneras. It doesn't have capacity to meet our existing needs. It was due to create a larger infrastructure on phase 2. However, nobody is coming up with 57 million euros, which is necessary for the infrastructure to bring the water to our area here. This is the inland area. Also, if we look at this, the ton of water would cost around about €1 a ton. And so 60,000 euros a day for 60,000 tons, well, that's not profitable, and therefore neither Acumed, who work for the government, nor private money are prepared to invest. We are undergoing a changed climate, and we have drought affecting basically the whole of the peninsula with massive downpours, which you may have read about as of about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have no chance of water coming from anywhere else. This river is a part of the heritage of Almería. The area is unique in Europe. It's the last oasis in Western Europe. It's the only river in the province that has never dried up in summer months, and I would say, from what I'm seeing, we could well go dry next year. So we have seriously depleted, diminishing water resources, no planning until 2022, and there will no longer be corridors of biodiversity, maintaining ecosystems within 35,000 hectares of Nature 2000 land. This is a scandal which I came across, and I took my camera and I photographed this, and we were able to stop super intensive olives being planted here at 1,800 trees per hectare, about 800 meters from our spring, and this is within our protected zone. Unbelievable. So we're looking at a veritable ecocide, massive disregard for the rights of Mother Earth, and the continuance of the ecological cycles of the area. Point here is that without water, there can be no economic or social development. As the water levels decline, of course, the biodiversity declines. Therefore, we have a downward spiral. So we have breaks in the ecological chain of life, and the desert which surrounds us will take us over. Financial losses incurred by returning the aquifer to sustainability would impact the GDP of Almería and Andalusia. Well, I think a very important point is that financial losses that would be incurred through no action would also impact GDP of Almería and Andalusia, since all social and economic development will come to an end. The junta have known of the problem since 1998. Frameworks for control are within the power of the junta. They're noted in the 2010 memorandum. Excuse me while I quieten the dogs again. Okay. The Ombudsman could halt this overexploitation. The thing is that we don't have people taking responsibility. And we don't have any signs of solution as I wrote this, but when I finish this presentation, I can give you some better news. We have the administration now agreeing that we are overexploited. And so these points here, we are forcing the duty of action within an enforceable legal framework. And we've been able to do this by employing a lawyer from Madrid who is outside of the Almería mafia, should we call it. She's Cristina Alvarez Bacarizo. She's written a book on environmental law, and we've been able to poke the Junta de Andalucía into producing a 17-point plan, since we put to them that you guys are not following the directives of Spanish law. Okay, so I'd rather hope that we would see the last of these olive harvests. They still go on. We must return the aquifer to sustainability. An idea is to have a class action. Wow, this is kind of tricky in an area where people have been abused by Franco, before Franco, and the people feel if they put their heads up, their heads are liable to be chopped off. So there's really quite a difficult situation of bringing people together to actually fight against this. As of this presentation, we were at an impasse. Now we are actually been able to move forwards. The overexploitation, as in 2017, of the aquifers of Almería was 151 cubic hectometers. That's 151 million tons. Well, finally, water is life. Rainfall is minimal, 187 liters per square meter. This was the year of 2017, and 200 liters per square meter is a desert climate. The waters from the underground reserves are what give us life. No extra reserves, no plan for developing desalinated water, and we are undergoing an irreversible ecocide. This was, we painted this on a wall of a building as people drive down the road into the olive plantations. As, people drive for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes through this. So we called it the olive man. And so we have the last of the water coming through the businessman, money coming, dollars coming out of the hands on the ground, and the result is death and destruction. This painting lasted, this graffiti lasted 9 days before it was painted out. We have copies of this actually in the United Nations. We have copies in the University of Almería. So we had some fun with that. Here was a summary of the case at the end of the judgment of the case at the end of the tribunal. So, okay. These aquifers feed the springs and rivers that sustain unique ecological communities, as well as the communities of people who live in the area. These springs and rivers are now running dry, killing the species and ecological communities they rely on, depriving local communities of their livelihoods and driving them out of the area. The existing legal system has failed to prevent this happening, even though protected areas are being affected. This case illustrates the consequences of treating water as a commodity that can be monopolized by the wealthy instead of recognizing water as a vital source of life, which must be respected and afforded the highest level of protection. Although this case focused on the Almería area of Spain, it is an example of what is happening in many areas of the world, and the principles are universal. The fundamental principle in this case is that human societies that do not respect water as life, and which fail to take whatever measures are necessary to protect the ecological systems and cycles that generate water, destroy life, and ultimately destroy themselves. Water is priceless. Societies that sacrifice water sources for money will pay a terrible price. The tribunal found that persisting in pumping out groundwater faster than it can be replenished and depriving ancient communities of life of the flows of water that nourish them violates the rights of rivers and ecological systems of Almería, and violates the human rights of local people, including the rights of future generations. The tribunal also found that the governments of Almería and Spain, the commercial olive farmers, and others involved in the over-abstraction of this water have failed to fulfill their duties under the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth, to respect the rights of nature and to ensure that the pursuit of human well-being contributes to the well-being of Mother Earth now and in the future, and must take immediate action to stop the abstraction of groundwater to allow the ecosystems to recover. There we go. That is the presentation. So any comments on that? I'm going to just come back to all you.
You know, I don't know. It just seems that there is a huge change after 40 years of the Socialist Party governing, which seem to have, Andalusia is one of the poorest regions in Spain already. So I'm sure they're trying to incentivize employment of some sort. That's how they want. They run against corruption. I remember because I was following it. They run against corruption and a bunch of things, and they were able to beat the Socialist Party. But they might, I don't know. They might want to probably double down on olive plantations, or I don't know. I'm just curious, but you're telling me that they're having answers, so I don't know.
Well, very simply, no. Very simply, no. We're in the extreme southeast corner of Spain. We have a very low population. The Madrid government is not really interested in what we're doing down here. The Andalusian government is also not very interested, so that's why we've employed a lawyer, and we are hitting them with point-by-point law. We need to avoid taking them to court, because as soon as we take them to court, then we run into a time situation where a court case can take years. So we're in a very real situation where the legal forms are not working. We have to push and shove and demand, and we have a lawyer who is enabling us to do this. And I started this case in 2014, and it's taken till 2018 with a good lawyer to actually even get a response. So we have formed a community of regantes, which is the formula. Community of regantes are community of irrigators. This provides a formula where we can demand the restoration of the aquifer. However, the formation of this community of regantes is run by Juan Carrion and the major extractors of water, who have the vested interest to keep the situation as it is. As I speak, our team are looking to get the minutes of the meeting of the formation of this community of irrigators to see if we've got some legal loopholes there in order to get the 1,200 small concessionarios, the people who have 1,200 concessions, to be able to have a vote. At the present time, we've got 19 big concessions taking the vote. Statistically speaking, we've got 1,200 concessions taking about 5 hectometers, which is sustainable. Then we have the big concessions, 19 or so, which are taking a possible amount of 43 hectometers, 43 million tons. The aquifer's reserves total are 100 million tons, 100 hectometers. We're on the death list. Strong words, but that's how it is. This is the reality of undergoing an ecocide here in southern Spain with very few tools to come up against it. There are theoretical tools, there's law, but if the people who are the administrators of the law are not prepared to take on that law, then we're not going to get any action. And we are pressing, as I said, for an interview with the Director General, because we have the rights to do that. This is heavy duty, getting the job done in whatever way we can. Not theoretical, super practical. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Not good news, I'm afraid.
This seems to be a case of corruption, i.e. illegal action that is overlooked, or perhaps local politicians are bought off, along with perhaps lawful activity that nonetheless is consistent with ecocide. should this kind of case be treated differently from cases that entirely involve activity that is lawful under national or provincial or state laws, but amounts to ecocide?
Yep.
In other words, some cases of ecocide might be resolvable largely using existing laws through better enforcement, while others are not because the ecocide activity is legal under existing laws.
Yeah, okay, well, we don't have a law of ecocide. So we have to use laws which are in place in Spain. There is no law of ecocide, okay? So this kind of case has to be treated under the existing laws of Spain, as does any case in any country. If there is no law of ecocide, the case doesn't exist. What we have here is corruption throughout the whole province. Lawful? No, it's definitely not lawful under national or provincial or state law. What is happening does amount to an ecocide. The case we can call ecocide. This case is going up to the International Criminal Court. We made a film in order to help persuade the International Criminal Court in The Hague that ecocide needs to be criminalized, after which we have a case of ecocide. That existing, yeah, using existing laws is the only way that we can go. And actually, even that is difficult, because using existing laws, we run into the time frame where right here, we don't have time to take the administration to the law courts, because by the time it gets to the law courts, they've won because they've played for time. Better enforcement, we do need it. We don't get it. The activity is illegal under existing laws. I think, how do you feel about that? Not good.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think also Jeff's question was pointing to something along the lines of, what about those cases where the law itself creates the damage instead of the law solving the problem? How about those laws that actually create or open up space for the problem to be, so the law being responsible for damage.
Okay, well, within that framework, all these olive plantations, they are legally sanctioned. They have permissions. These permissions have been granted by the Junta de Andalucía, the government of Andalusia, who's been passing a little money into people's pockets, because here we are in a semi-arid zone, and of course this is totally unsustainable. That's the problem. That's the problem. This is a similar place to Mexico. It's very clear and very easy to see it here. The corruption is evident everywhere, and this makes it quite a challenge. And also, it's a small case, and therefore it's easy to pinpoint a kind of diamond bright case. It's clear, and it is an ecocide. And what do we do about it? Okay, what do? We make a film. We send this up to the International Criminal Court, and we say, here's an example. This needs to be sorted. We need to have ecocide criminalized. So it is. Any comments?
David, this is John from University of Vermont.
Hi, John.
If this were a genocide, would it be any different under international law, or would the national government, national sovereignty also sort of sidestep all of this?
Well, if it was a genocide, then we would be working under criminal law. We'd be able to start a case saying this is a case of genocide under international criminal law. Do something about it.
Now I'm trying to make the link from ecocide to genocide, though. So ecocide is a cause of genocide. If it's the loss of human life, then you can kind of go through that avenue.
I think basically this is why Polly chose the Statute of Rome, because the Statute of Rome was set up to prevent the occurrence of war. Yeah.
Yeah.
And war creates genocide. So yeah, I get your linkage. I think the linkage is valid, and this is how Polly brought this in to be included in the Statute of Rome, because it is part of the principle of when we have a situation which causes war, then we have death and potential killing of indigenous people. Right?